The truth about Sorcery. Ags, do you think Sorcery is good? Is the game bad? Ags, why do you force yourself to play this game even though I know you don't like it? These are all the questions that have been asked to me. These are comments I've seen in the comment section, etc. And I'm actually here to address everything today. So today I'm going to be giving you guys my honest thoughts on Sorcery. Is Sorcery actually a good game? And if I'm being very honest with every single one of you guys, I actually kind of enjoy Sorcery to a certain extent, that is, because all there really is to Sorcery is everything up to the culling games, and then that's honestly it. There's nothing to do after that. So yes, I do think Sorcery actually has potential. However, it has the potential to fail more than it has the potential to succeed. But the game itself is honestly not bad, and if the developers can get enough of the game complete, I don't know if they have a time frame, but I'm gonna say relatively soon. If the devs can actually get this game locked down, actually add entertaining and interesting content to this game, I think it has the grounding, the footing to do honestly very well. Now, I will say they are not going to be able to add a good amount of things to this game on time or within a short period of time. On top of that, if they do add things to the game within any close time frame, it's going to be things that are trash. It's not going to be good forms of content. And I'm going to expand on everything I'm saying now in the actual video, because we're going to break everything down and talk about everything properly. So before we actually get into this, you guys do me a huge favor. Honestly, truly, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new. I appreciate all the love you guys have been showing recent. Let's get straight into it. Now, I want to talk about the bad before we get into anything good or how to improve. And yes, we will speak about the things that should be added and how to improve this game, because I'm not gonna lie, if you compare this game to games like Type Soul, I think Sorcery has the potential to be a million times better than Type Soul. But let's throw that to the side and let's talk about the bad. The big elephant in the room that I'm pretty sure everybody is aware of how bad this game really does is the mission. The missions in this game are actual dog shit. I didn't want to cuss, but the missions are terrible. Now, the missions aren't necessarily bad where it's like, oh, this game stinks, poo poo, I don't want to play. The missions are bad is I really feel like they're really lazily put together. They're not that interesting. And the mobs are kind of overtuned. Now, yes, if you parry, you actually do kill the mobs pretty fast, even as a new player. You kill the mobs fast as a new player. You guys saw my progression video. It's actually not that hard to kill the mobs. However, the mobs deal an insane amount of damage. It is very easy to get infinite comboed by them because the heavy attacks kind of stun lock you to a certain sense. And if you get jumped by them, you're dead because they're just gonna infinite heavy attack you, wall combo you. It's pretty terrible how overtuned the mobs are. However, it's not completely terrible. The rescue the hostage missions actually isn't bad, and I don't know why people are struggling on how to pick up the hostages. Bro, just press the V button. Do you guys like not even try to learn how to play? Even if you skipped the tutorial, even if the tutorial was there and didn't show you how to pick up the mobs, people usually press keys on their keyboards to try figure things out if they don't know how to do things in video games. Why are you just sitting there complaining saying you don't know how to do it and accept that? Please try. Roblox players, do one thing for me. Try. If you try, you will learn. Another thing I genuinely think I can't stand is how you actually obtain items in this game. Honestly, every item you see people have, whether it's Sukuna Finger, True War Remnant, whether it's a really high HP gear, a really cool mythical weapon, etc. Every single one of them are obtained doing the exact same thing. There's no difference in this game's gameplay. It doesn't try to make things interesting or harder, etc. It's the exact same thing. You have to do missions and complete them. And forget talking about the missions themselves. That box mission is terribly boring. But you just have to complete the missions and you get gear. And if you get lucky, you get the rare stuff. If you don't, you don't. And you just keep doing it till you get it. That is the most boring form of progression, getting gear I've ever seen in my life. It's not even like you get them off dead bodies, etc. You just do missions over and over again. You get your curse technique, you go back to doing missions. You finish culling games and you have cool moves that you can use now, but guess what? You don't use them anywhere else other than continue to farm missions. It's the same thing over and over again, and it's mind numbing. It's less mind numbing than playing Grand Peace Online, but it's still mind numbing. There's no variation, there's no difference, there's no uniqueness, there's no entertainment. You do the same thing from start literally to finish. There's no difference. Speaking of that, obviously the clear lack of content is something that's also terrible. Obviously, somebody said the game's been in development for 2 months. I don't know how true that is. I don't know what the case may be. I do know, I think it's a solo dev. The guy that bought the game off the older is a solo dev. It's a solo dev. And I'm not gonna lie, the game's generated enough money to put other devs on percentages or to hire other devs. And the game is doing well enough to the point where there are gonna be devs interested in working for this game. So please try assemble a team. I understand solo dev. Solo dev is the reason why I can't stand a game like Arcane Odyssey anymore, because content just doesn't exist for that game. And when content does come, it's not that entertaining because there's only so much one person can add to a game. Please hire some more devs, bro, or this game will die. As much as I actually kind of want Sorcery to succeed now, after playing it for a bit, this game will die. This game will die. This game will die. Please hire more developers and add content. Not obviously at a faster rate. There's no need to rush. We don't need to rush anything. However, add some content, and some good content too. Not another trash mission. Another thing I noticed I genuinely hate about this game is people all F4ing at the culling game. It's so annoying. Why do you not get credit for people quitting in the culling games? If people want to all F4, fine. We understand you suck at the game. But why does that not count as my kill? Please change up culling games and add a punishment for people quitting in combat. I don't know why that isn't a thing. And no, I don't mean losing money and the things inside your inventory. Add a real punishment for all, especially in a game mode where you kind of need to get kills in order to progress. So if people are all F4ing and there's no repercussion for it, there's no real reason why I shouldn't all F4 other than just losing some gear. Add a punishment, whether they lose 2 grades or they lose their curse technique. Yeah, make it so that they lose their curse technique and they have to do the maze again. Nobody wants to keep doing the maze. Make it so that they lose the curse technique and they have to do finding the orb and doing the maze again, please. Because what else would you add? You can't wipe the slot. That's pretty crazy. But make it so that they have to keep repeating it, because having no punishment for all F4ing in the culling games is irritating. Another thing I think needs to be changed and added or worked on is every single weapon damn near has the same crit. Even Fist has a very similar crit to weapons like katanas, etc. Each weapon needs its own unique style of crit. Fist crit shouldn't be a kick animation, should be a fist block break animation. If you want to add some sort of Muay Thai, Taekwondo type of fighting style to the game where they focus on using their kicks over fist, then do that. However, my katana and my jet black blade shouldn't have the exact same crit animation. Please add unique crit animations to each weapon and make it cool. I understand the greatsword has a slam down move and it's pretty different, but add interesting and unique criticals for each of the weapons. It's bad enough the weapons don't have abilities. It would be cool if the weapons had abilities, and we'll speak more about that in improvement stuff. But I can't have the same weapon. I can't get a legendary weapon like the black jet blade and have a katana and it feels like I'm using the exact same weapon. It shouldn't be like that. So there needs to be some individuality between every single weapon, every single one of them. There's not that many weapons in the game anyways, so there's no reason why each weapon shouldn't have the individual crit animations, and it should just feel like I'm using a different weapon overall. And the last thing I want to talk about in the bad is the banking system. The banking system is honestly terribly mid. You can only store 4 items inside the bank, and I'm actually going to say how to improve it here because there's no point waiting just to talk about this one. If there's only going to be 4 items in the bank that you can store, at least allow us to store multiple of the same item in one slot? Why do I need 4 slots for 4 different cursed gems? I should be able to put 99 cursed gems in one slot, so I can actually put other things in other slots. What's the point of the flipping bank? What's the point? Now you would think most of these things are like kind of common sense, but no. Please revamp the bank. I'm not saying there needs to be more slots, but however, you should be able to store the same item within the same slot a decent amount of times. I would say 99 is usually how it goes. And then obviously for stuff like mythical weapons, mythical items, Sukuna's fingers, true remnant orbs, there should be a mythical slot for a legendary or mythical item, and you can only store one version of those within that 5th mythical slot. And that way at least allows us to store multiple things, and then allows us to store one mythical or legendary item within that 5th mythical slot. And then if people want to store these other items, they're gonna have alt accounts with banks, etc, like what people do, or at least didn't. Now let's talk about the good features in this game. Now I'm not gonna lie to you, this one's gonna come as a shock to most of you guys, and I'm gonna say the movement, the mobility / controls. Now I know this one's gonna come as a shock to most of you guys, because I was originally complaining about having to press E and then press Q and then press E and then press this ability and then press E and then use that ability. But I understand why this game has that mechanic now. There are multiple features in this game that actually need to utilize this mechanic, not only to make it more balanced, but so that items like the true war remnant, so when you get heavenly restriction, actually makes sense to use over using stuff like curse abilities and curse techniques. Because when you have heavenly restriction, you don't actually have to utilize the cursed energy button anymore. You don't need to press E to do anything anymore, and it makes everything just make a lot more sense. So to use your cursed abilities, which are pretty powerful on the most part, you need to have something that kind of doesn't make it mind-numbingly easy to utilize, because then it will be overpowered. And then it would kind of feel like, wait, what's the point of me using this heavenly restriction if it's kind of just overwhelmingly better and more powerful and more seamless to use curse techniques? So I'm not gonna lie to you, the E plus all these other buttons, as tedious as it may be, it makes a lot of sense. And what I'm starting to get used to is actually pressing the E button with the other buttons. You actually get used to it. It's different. So a lot of people are reluctant to change. Change to a lot of people is always bad until you get used to that change. It's kind of like COVID and lockdown. People forced to stay at home. People actually got used to it. Some people actually kind of miss it. Obviously, we're not going to get into that because a lot of people hated it. But a lot of people are reluctant to change. And once you get used to the change, it's honestly not that terrible. The E plus other buttons isn't actually that bad. And it makes sense. It just makes sense. Another thing I will say on top of that, again, with the movement has a lot of Roblox jank, especially in the maze or the parkour mission. I said parkour mission, especially for the parkour part of the CT quest, the curse technique quest. The Roblox jank is very apparent, and the movement is kind of stiff. The movement is stiff to a certain degree. And you kind of understand why it's like that later on in the game with the game's PvP. Now, this game's PvP is kind of refreshing. It's not really ability spam. Okay, the best way to compare it to is Type Soul now is honestly just ability spam with people flash stepping across the map and reappearing out of nowhere. It's a lot of really high unbalanced mobilities paired with a lot of highly unbalanced ability spam with highly unbalanced movement. So if you pair all of this together, it just becomes a spam fest. Especially when hell mode comes and people are actually using true Bankai, all these big flashy overpowered abilities, everybody using that at once, it's going to make the game annoying. Honestly, I give the game, once Hellverse drops, Type Soul will die very quickly because people are going to get tired of the combat. But it's really all over the place. Now, with Sorcery, you do have a lot of big abilities, but the movement, the mobility is grounded. The game is grounded. This actually reminds me of old Deep Woken, release Deep Woken. Remember when Nano used to make the videos of the little montages? Old Deep Woken, even before Deep Woken came out, old Deep Woken combat was way more entertaining to me than Deep Woken's current combat. That's just my opinion. I still have clips of old Deep Woken combat of me going crazy. That was when Deep Woken was fun, in my opinion. And then they revamped the combat, and then they added all these annoying, stupid abilities, and then it became meta to have a stupidly overpowered build with 500 HP and you rolling and teleporting off the map and coming back and using these flashy abilities. Yeah, Deep Woken's trash now, in my opinion. The combat, that is. But in Sorcery, it's actually balanced. It's fun. It's not too much and it's not too little. With the dashes, you don't go across the map with the dashes. It only slightly moves you away from where you actually currently are, and it's a good way of dodging real players. NPCs is broken because NPCs are unpredictable and they're calculated, whatever. But when you're fighting against real players, the mobility, the movement in the game, it's just way more fun. It's way more entertaining. Again, it reminds me of old school Deep Woken, like a good version of Rogue Lineage's combat. And it's entertaining. Culling games is entertaining. I wish there was more PvP game modes in this game so we got to experience more of it. But I honestly think the PvP is very fun in this game. Paired with the game's mobility, I like it. It's grounded. It's not overtuned and overbroken yet. It will get like that, but it's not like that yet. And I think the mobility, the movement pairs and ties really well with the game's PvP system, the combat mechanic. The combat in this game is actually pretty fun. So I'm gonna give it that. Honestly, I give it. Now let's talk about how to improve. And there's actually quite a few things here. Now, the first step is revamping progression completely. A missions revamp at least. Now, with missions revamp, I mean exactly that. Revamp each type of mission that is in rotation, especially that box one. Especially the box one is terrible. Revamp the missions and also include invasions. There needs to be invasions rather from other sorcerers or curses. Now, this would just make it more entertaining, and then we can actually call this a PvP game. Invasions would be kind of cool, and then depending on how many people are in your party would depend on how many people come to your invasion. Obviously you can't have a party of 4 and then the invasion is 1 curse. It's pretty stupid. So it would be really cool if it did something like that. That would be very entertaining. However, invasions is going to get kind of mid as the game grows in less in players. It kind of needs to have a decent player count for invasions to be good, in my opinion at least. On the same note is progression. Adding another form of progression in the open world. Obviously the open world is not complete. It's actually just a giant base plate. But obviously when open world gets revamped, there should be more forms of progression that's not just doing stupid missions. Now, the best way to even compare this, let's say Rogue Lineage when it comes to things like weapon trainers. All these mythical and legendary weapons not having abilities is actually pretty stupid. It's kind of a letdown. So it would be cool if there was trainers in the open world that would actually be open to training you to obtain 1 or 2 skills depending on the weapon. And in order to actually get those weapon skills, you need to accumulate EXP, whether that's through PvP, whether that's through doing missions, just fighting NPCs with the weapon. Maybe you need to get a certain amount of grips. There should be weapon progression, just weapon progression in general. Things that you do in the open world. Open world should include a bunch of different mobs and different biomes, etc. Just make it more entertaining. Secret missions, secret areas, etc. Different ways of actually obtaining mythical and legendary weapons and items. Not through doing missions, but through doing some sort of dungeons or a new instance with different biome. The best way I can actually compare this one is probably like Layer 1 and Layer 2 with Deep Woken. Finding Sukuna's fingers shouldn't be something you get after a mission. It should be something you either find from defeating a legendary cursed spirit in Layer 2 or Layer 3 or Layer 1. There needs to be more depth with this game. Or even adding another progression themed area similar to the culling games, sorry. Maybe a form of a hunter exam that has different stages that you can only partake in once you're a special grade, and completing this gives you access to a bunch of different weapons or a new form of progression that you can only complete after the hunter exams. I mean hunter exams as in actually doing different stages. It doesn't have to be a one-to-one copy, but there can be a bunch of different stages that you take part in. Or if that's too much, maybe a disaster at Shibuya type event, like in JJK Shibuya Disaster. There could be an event that takes place like the culling games. Once you're a special grade sorcerer, special grade curse, whatever the case may be, that you are able to take part in, that assigns curses to different roles, assigns sorcerers to different roles, and you have to do a bunch of different tasks. And if you run into curses doing a certain specific set of tasks, you have to defeat them and they get eliminated, and then one side dominates the other side, and whichever side is left standing at the end and they complete the final task, they win. Like, it's so easy to take things from the anime or from different games and implement it into another game without it being a direct copy and making it unique. It's not that hard. Obviously, to actually implement into the game would be it's a process, but it can be done. Just make progression more fun. Add some end game progression too. And yeah, honestly, that's all I have, bro. I honestly think progression needs to be cool. They should add more culling games type events. Honestly, I really like my hunter exam, disaster, and Shibuya event suggestion. I think that should be taken into consideration. Oh, can we do not add a dungeon system, a themed dungeon system that is just mobs spawning in waves? What is wrong with Roblox developers and being lazy? No, I'm actually tired. Deep Woken added the mode where there's just a bunch of mobs, different bosses with different traits spawning in waves, and you have to defeat them. And then that's so lazy. That's the most lazy form of deving I've seen, and people eat it up every time. Obviously, because Deep Woken players do not have content. They're malnourished for content, bro. So they take every little bit of it. You know how lazy and disingenuous that is? Just adding an area with something in the middle that spawns in bosses wave after wave. Lazy, disgusting. GPO did the same thing with dungeons. People ate that up. Why? Because you could get a mythical fruit. I literally only done dungeon 5 times since I played GPO. 5 times. Terrible game mode. Jujutsu Infinite has the exact same thing. A wave mob spawn simulator. It's so lazy and disingenuous. What is wrong with and Roblox players eat that stuff up every single time. Yeah, spawning the exact same mobs round after round so I can jump in the air and spam my abilities to kill them. Please add that to this game. Oh my gosh. Stop adding game modes like that to games. So lazy. Sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent. I just hate dungeon spawn mob simulators. Honestly, it's so lazy and so disingenuous to the game, and players, well, Roblox players are like 10 years old, so they love it. Anyways, yeah, that's my thoughts on Sorcery. It's actually not that bad of a game, but the game is honestly pretty bad at the same time. It's like I'm sitting on the fence. It's super 50-50. The game isn't terrible. The game has potential, but potential, man, can easily fail because, you know, a lot of people don't achieve their potential. So at the same time, it's a good and a bad thing. It really depends on the developers and how fast they want to get good content out to the public. And there's not a lot of time left. The game is closing, I think, this Saturday. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it is what it is. The game's good, but the game's bad. It's a 50-50. So if we had to put it on a rate of a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give it like a 6. I can't go higher than a 6. Can't. It's impossible. But yeah, if you agree, or let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I have been reading a lot of the comments and over the recent videos, and a lot of you guys think the game is too hard. This game's easy. Not only does this game not have enough content to be hard, the game's actually pretty straightforward and it's not that difficult, honestly. I'm being so honest in the nicest way possible. I think I'm a average level gamer at best. So if I can do it, I know you guys can do it. Please try harder. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. And I'm gonna see you in the next one. We should be streaming tonight. Emphasis on should be. So I should see you tonight, maybe? Turn on your post notifications so you know if it does happen.